So this week on the podcast, I'm looking forward to learning something new because Charles says he hasn't shared this with me yet.
God,
So we're going to talk about the Jigsaw puzzle
Mm-hmm.
and what that's all about. You've even got a couple illustrations here for us to take a look
Oh,
at
yes,
on camera.
yes,
But,
things,
yeah.
yes.
So I've done jigsaw puzzle conversations about retirement before, so I felt like I could totally wing this. But you said it's a little different, so I'm curious to learn. So let's get into it. How are you? You doing all right?
Yes, well, we're recording it here early in October, and it's still summertime hot. So if you're
And
listening,
we're dropping this in late October.
if you're local, you already lived through this. So we're all grumpy and sweating.
There you go. All right. Let's get educational instead of grumpy. So what do we got? So what's the jigsaw puzzle?
Well, when we go places, I always like to ask people, have you ever worked a jigsaw puzzle? And there are some people say, I hate them.
Oh, sure.
But most people go, oh, yeah, I've worked a jigsaw puzzle. So I will ask you, Mark,
You've done it with your kids, your grandkids, whatever.
Stuff, yeah. What's the most important piece?
Of the jigsaw puzzle? A piece or multiple pieces? I would say, okay, the most important piece is technically the box cover.
Ooh, you stinker. Most people will say the edges or the corners. They absolutely do. One guy said
that's the second most important piece.
Those are the ones. That's what and I had one guy that one time said, there was a piece missing, and I looked under the table and there it was. I could finish. So I thought that was actually kind of cute. No.
See, I told you I've had this conversation sort of before.
I don't know.
Because the analogy, it's a great analogy and a metaphor for building and structuring retirement plans or whatever the case is. But if you don't have the big picture, how the hell do you know where you're going?
Well, that's right. And we actually have puzzles.
I see it. Yep.
Okay. And I'll show you.
It's the logo, too, of Pelleton.
Well, yes, it is. Clever. Yes, it is a jigsaw puzzle piece. Because our contention is the most important piece of any jigsaw puzzle, no matter how many pieces. And Costco had some on sale that you needed like a garage to put it together in last Christmas time. The most important piece is the box top. It's just that simple.
Because it's the overview.
It's the view. It's your puzzle. We want to be your box top. We've seen lots of puzzles. People's financial puzzles have different numbers and values attached to them. They have different importance to different people. But the reality of it is you need somebody to help you put the damn puzzle together because there's a lot of parts. There's a lot of parts to it. And we don't try to get you to agree that we think this is the most important piece, so you should too. It's just like, what do you want your puzzle to look like? Let us help you do it. We'll put all the pieces of it together. And I'm going to hold this up so you can get a better shot of it. And then I'm not going to.
Yep. Back it up just a little bit. There you go. Yep.
Okay. And try to get it level, which is backwards.
So you got, it's backwards to you, but it's straight to us.
Yes,
so
that's exactly right. So there's like 8 or 10 different pieces, retirement account, taxes, annuities, insurance, long-term care, estate planning, real estate, inflation, risk, IRAs, Medicare, Social Security, all those things that are financial. But they're all different to all people, and they're going to be a different shape for everybody when it's your own puzzle.
Yeah.
So,
well, and we've talked about this before, Charles. And sometimes we're so focused, we're so hyper focused as we're going through life and living our life and doing the things we got to do, and we're focused on growing our assets so that when we get to retirement we can be there. And we don't stop to think about if you pull one lever in retirement, it affects a whole bunch of other pieces. Sure. Well, if you pull one piece out of that puzzle,
it ain't done.
It ain't done, and you may have problems, right? Yeah. Or if you put the wrong piece in the wrong spot, you can't jam it in there
thinking
either.
That it's going to fit, but it really doesn't fit because you didn't,
And you can't hit it.
No, you can't use you could, but you can't use the puzzle again. So it's
being a kid, right? You put them together, and you're like, no, I know this one goes in here, and you bend the little edges or whatever, whatever the case might be.
Yeah. Or
so it's really important
to make it fit. That's.
I don't think I did that one, but it really truly is, and it becomes like the DIY movement for anything has been great for the last number of years. And you can be on YouTube we are now, and you can YouTube how to do something, and you can do a lot of YouTubing for growing your wealth. And you can even do some DIYing for now preservation and retirement. But the reality is if you don't do this every day, you don't truly understand how all these different pieces start to really play into each other in that preservation stage, aka retirement.
Yeah, and the other thing that's out there is who's giving you the information. They're not going to call it advice because the vast, if you go online, anybody can give you what their 2 cents worth. Sometimes that's twice as much of value as it is.
And they're not regulated.
And they're not regulated, and they really, they've got. I'm not saying that it's all bad, but it's not. It's not all bad, but way too much of it is done by people that just think they know what they're talking about and know some of what they're talking about, but don't know enough to know that they shouldn't be talking about this because they're not licensed.
And it may not be accurate to your specific situation. Maybe that's the more important piece. Maybe it sort of works on a broader spectrum. I mean, we'll go with with one of the biggest name, financial guys out there that's got a massive empire.
Sure.
Always talks about the same 12% this and so on and so forth. But he's got some great advice that works for a lot of people. But he also has a lot of advice that doesn't work for a lot of other people.
No.
And it can be very dangerous. And he's not regulated because he's not an advisor.
Right. Nor is he insurance licensed. As far as I know, he's not. Now, that may not be fair because he could be. But,
that's true.
But yet we run into people all the time that they say, well, I think what he's saying makes sense. I said, yeah, it does. It does for this. It does for this corner of the puzzle. There's the rest of the puzzle. What's he going to do? He doesn't do anything about the rest of the puzzle. He just talks about the point. He talks about one little part of the puzzle. And that's right. And that's
great.
Fine.
And that's fine. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's when it comes back to us, I not to try to get too political, but I saw the craziest thing where somebody said, we're going to put the information out there and it's up to the viewer to discern whether it's factual or not.
Well, that's just the craziest, stupidest comment ever.
Right. And this is by the same side that also says, disinformation is bad. And it's like, okay, you can't have it both ways.
Well, you sure you can. If it's politics.
Well, I guess. But in anything in life, it still comes back to us to discern what is going to work for us or not. Yeah. And then if you don't know, that's when you take those questions to professionals. One, maybe two, maybe even three.
Ask. Everybody, all of us in this industry love to give you our opinion. It's based on, for me, a long time. I've done this more than 30 years. There's not much out there that I haven't seen. And there's a lot of great stuff. And there's also been a whole bunch of bad stuff. So take those questions, Charles, to someone like yourself and go, hey, these 5 things have really been on my radar. And I want to know how these might affect me. And then you guys break them down. Exactly.
And you can be, hey, 1 and 2 is good, but 3 and 4 is crap.
Yeah. So
it doesn't make it bad.
No.
Now you're learning.
Yeah. And no one knows all of it. No one does. We always, we know what we don't know, and we'll never take you down that path. It makes no sense for us to do that. But there's not a lot we don't know, or at least know somebody else in that arena that does know that we can then hand you off to for that particular part. That's just knowing everybody in the community as much as we possibly can, and knowing who's a good potential referral to somebody or a second opinion for somebody, because you might like what I have to say or you might not, and that's totally up to you. I'm going to tell you what I know to be true.
Yeah, and that's why so many advisors offer those complimentary consultations. I mean, like lawyers and whatever the case is as well, because it's like, look, let's see if we're the right fit, and if the information that I'm discerning down to you resonates with you, and my delivery is in a way that you also like and can accept. My first doctor, my first cardiologist, I couldn't stand his delivery to me talking about stuff, and it just didn't work. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but I've got to switch to one of the other guys in the office because we're not jibing, and I need to understand this.
Yeah, no, I
so
totally
I got the
understand.
next guy, and he gave it to me in a different delivery, and it clicked.
Yeah, no, that's just it. You don't want to try to get too many opinions because then it gets confusing.
Sure.
But if there's a
well, hello Google, right?
There you go.
Don't just, you can Google it, I guess, if you want for baseline, but be careful, right? Because as we all know, you can Google something and get 11 billion responses.
Yeah.
And then you can just cause yourself to do nothing.
I think that's goofy stuff.
Yeah, I think in the reality, though, if you get 2 or 3 or 4 questions that are really pertinent to your situation, and then you schedule time with 2 or 3 advisors and go see who's the right field, the right fit, the right information.
And we're going to have different questions than you thought about. And the other thing we do when we're interviewing somebody for the very first time, having a conversation with them, is we look to see, does this work for us? Is this somebody that we want to work with, or is this going to be, candidly, more trouble than it's worth? And we've had that happen before. The shortest conversation we had with a couple was about 15 minutes long, and we knew within 5 minutes of the conversation starting, this just would never work. Because I'm gonna bash this specific guy. He didn't respect his wife at all, and we wanted to say,
And that's not good.
no, it was awful. We wanted to say to her, as we politely just suggested, we're not probably going to be a really good fit for you guys. So let's not waste each other's time. We wanted to say to her on the way out, when he drops dead, come see us. We like you. I'm serious. I mean,
no, I mean, because, think about delivery styles and everything else. And also if you fundamentally don't have this repertoire back and forth, as the end user, as the client, am I going to take the advice and actually go implement it if I'm not totally on board with what this person is saying?
That's it. And
and vice versa. You're sitting there going, am I going to give these people, whomever they might be, this advice knowing that they're never going to implement it? Then they're going to be upset with the performance, and it's like, well, you're not doing it.
You're not doing what what
it's got to be a two-way street.
Yeah, and life's too short. I don't want to waste time with somebody that doesn't, want to work with us. It's okay. It's okay. It's your money. It's your life.
It's a two-way street.
We're happy to help when it's the right fit, and happy not to when it's not. And the people, people should be too.
Yeah. Well, that's why financial choices matter. That's the name. That's why we named the podcast.
These segues. I don't know.
These segues are fantastic. So look, I'm going to jump out. We're going to take one email question real fast, and then we're going to get out of here this week. But if you need some help, go to PelletonCapital.com. Information's in the show descriptions below. Just click on that, and you can click all the links there. PelletonCapital.com. But we had a question come in from Claire, and she said, I'm worried a lot about a market crash at the end of the year or going into next year. Many people do around election season.
Oh, yeah.
But people tell me not to worry about it because I'm only 45
and
I got another 20 years. And I think it's, is it really that simple? And yeah, kind of, maybe.
Well,
20 years, a lot's going to happen.
A lot's going to happen. All kinds of things are going to change, one way than the other, because there's no middle ground anymore anywhere. When
multiple administrations, 20 years, she's going to see at least, 5 administrations.
But yeah, and I would say don't lock in on age 65, because that may or may not be the right kind of thing. The other thing is, and this is, in looking at this mailbag question that came in, it was like, okay, I remember something I used to say all the time about the investment world. It's like, I don't know. I said, it's like walking up the stairs with a yo-yo.
Okay.
This is the picture, walking up the stairs with a yo-yo. That's you say, if you watch the yo-yo, you'll go crazy. That's the market. If you just keep going up the stairs, you're going to be higher off in the end than you were when you started. The yo-yo will make you crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that you've gone up is the key.
Yeah.
So you just have to be patient. Ignore the yo-yo. Hope the string breaks. And,
okay, I'll give you another one. Since you like those before we go, and for folks to think about. I heard a different way of thinking about dealing with the market like this. You own a dog. Anyone who's a dog owner and you take your dog for a walk on the leash, and you're walking along the path. Well, what do? Well, you're walking on the path.
Oh, the dog
is over here and over here and over here and over here, and that's what the market is.
That's true too. And they're usually doing something into your grass.
But if you're staying the course, if you're staying on the path that you've laid out, you're walking the path. Typically, you're okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, typically people are okay. There's always extenuating circumstances, but typically, if you've got a strategy and a plan and you stick with it, you'll get where you're going.
You want to fine tune and readjust all the way through. It's this little thing different now, or my kid decided they didn't want to go to college, so what do we do now with the money that we have? Life happens.
Yeah, so exactly. But at 45, there's a lot still coming down the pike. I think if she's worried about a market crash, I would probably say, Charles, and I'll let you be the judge on this because you're the pro, but and I'm not. But I lob the questions. But probably so you see questions like this. People say, "I want to get out of the market right now." That's probably really the worst thing to do, right? Because now you're trying to time the market.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. What else are you going to go?
Right? Then it's easy to get out, and the biggest trick to this is then when's the right time to get back in.
And your dollar cost averaging, and if it does go down some, you're buying it on sale.
Well,
and at 45, you're young enough to do that.
I could take a different perspective on the whole dollar cost averaging thing.
I'm sure.
But there's predictions opinions, outlooks, and forecasts. Predictions, opinions, outlooks, and forecasts. POOF. If you pay attention to all the other people that are talking, that's what's going to happen to your money. It's just going to go poof.
And we're going to end with that. That's fantastic. It might go poof. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Financial Choices Matter. That's awesome. Get yourself on the calendar. Spend some time with Charles and Sherry and have a conversation. If you need some help, again, check the show links below for descriptions. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And we'll see you next time.
Ready to learn more? Get a complimentary review of your retirement landscape today. Reach out to Charles and Sherry at Pelleton Capital. Don't wait and let time pass you by. Sit down and build a rock-solid strategy that keeps the focus on you and your family. Visit Pelleton Capital or click the link in the show description. And don't forget to subscribe to Financial Choices Matter on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Financial planning and investment advisory services are provided by Pelleton Capital Management Limited, a state-registered investment advisor. Past performance is not indicative of future results. No one should assume the information presented here serves as a receipt of or substitute for personalized individual advice provided by Pelleton Capital Management. For more information, visit www.pelletoncapital.com.